What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. And today, let's talk a little bit about our Philadelphia Eagles and their head coaching search. I've compiled a list as of Thursday, the 14th, of people Philadelphia have either already conducted an interview with or have requested an interview with. And I kind of wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on this first wave, because usually your first wave, especially for Philadelphia, we're about a week behind a lot of the other teams that need a head coaching vacancy. Your first wave is like trying to get the guys you absolutely want first, at least interview first. So like I could just take it as these people that Philadelphia have already kind of talked to are top of their list, and then they're working their way down. There's some good and some bad, and ultimately I will finish with the number one person that they interviewed that I think should become the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and one that I kind of have as a number two that I think will surprise you. So without further ado, actually, we'll go with the guy that I just found out right before recording this video. Philadelphia requested OC of the Dallas Cowboys, Kellen Moore. And that's just weird. It just feels weird. It would feel weird if that ever came to fruition. But when I look at Kellen Moore, obviously they have a very high-powered offense in Dallas. I don't know if he could take whatever logic Dallas has been taking the last couple of years in terms of drafting, but let's be completely honest, Dallas has blown the Philadelphia Eagles out of the water when it comes to drafting. Like the last 3 years, two of the last 3 years, I think Dallas has had overwhelmingly a better draft than Philadelphia. That sucks. That's not a great feeling. And I don't know if at least on the offensive side of the ball, if Kellen Moore has any input whatsoever as the OC. Probably little, because it's Jerry World. It's run by Jerry Jones. But maybe he was able to like kind of give a list here or there, sneak a list under Jerry's door, and Jerry go, okay, good job, Kellen. These are some nice players we can potentially look at. The negatives for Kellen Moore is I'm skeptical that his offense will work with our roster. You know, it's very easy when you have a solid to good quarterback in Dak Prescott. We like to think he's not completely washed. A top 10 running back in Zeke Elliott, a top 10 offensive line, and 3 wide receivers who are better than any wide receiver on Philadelphia in Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. It's pretty easy to score a lot of points when you have almost 3 wide receiver ones. You know what I'm saying? And coming to Philadelphia, I think that drop-off could be significant. Like, I want to see more of Kellen Moore with less talent than having really what Dallas has right now. And then, it's one of those things where I'd feel, and I'm going to say about that for a couple of the people that we're going to talk about on this list. I'd feel more comfortable if they got fired or if they're interested in looking somewhere else to come in as a coordinator before making that huge leap to head coach. And there's also going to be a level of Philadelphia. This is kind of the whole point of the head coaching search, is that every single interview you have is someone's different approach on how they'll fix your team. So Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie is not only conducting interviews with people that he thinks could be his next head coach, he's probably bringing in people he knows he's not going to hire, but he wants to hear their input on how they would fix the Eagles, especially on the offensive side of the ball, maybe all these different approaches on how these guys think they can fix Carson Wentz. It's valuable information. But as far as Kellen Moore is concerned, I'd rather him as a coordinator. I don't think he's ready for a head coaching job yet. We got Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley, if you look at casual Eagles Twitter or any casual Eagle fan, they will say Deuce Staley should be the man for the job. And hey, he's a player's coach. He knows the roster. He can maximize the roster, given the fact that we have 0 salary cap, to really make big improvements on either side of the ball. Deuce Staley's a hell of a running backs coach. He has developed Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard played some of his best football here. Jay Ajayi played his best football here. Ryan Matthews played some of his best football here. Not so much DeMarco Murray. Josh Adams, UDFA, 1 year out of Notre Dame. He came in and was our leading rusher. So Deuce Staley has continuously developed running backs very well, and I think he's an outstanding running backs coach. However, the negative for Deuce Staley is I think outside of that, there's no positives that he brings. As far as becoming a head coach, as far as implementing a game plan, Deuce Staley, what we know, he's not even the run game coordinator. That's O-line coach Jeff Stoutland, who reports say right now he might be going back to Alabama. That would be a massive loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think there's a bigger loss possible. Even more so than Deuce Staley as running backs coach, Jeff Stoutland is you're not going to make an O-line coach your head coach, right? So I would honestly interview Stoutland for OC if he wants it. If he wants that job, because we cannot let him go. He's turned Jordan Mailata from a 7th round guy that never played football before into a guy that, if you look at Pro Football Focus, was like a top 15 tackle in the NFL. You know, and that's going to suck if that happens. But my point being, Deuce Staley wasn't even a run game coordinator. That was Stelton. I think, obviously, Deuce probably helped him a little bit, but we know Deuce Staley's biggest role was running back rotation. And that's dating back to the Chip Kelly days. And dating back to the Chip Kelly days with Ryan Matthews and DeMarco Murray, our running back rotation was awful. And now you look at it today, it's Miles Sanders not getting enough touches and everything in between. I just don't see enough out of Deuce Staley to say, yes, that's an exciting hire. It's pretty lateral. Like the fact that you would fire Doug Peterson because you don't think he's good enough and you want change, right? Or whatever way Jeffrey Lurie spin it. Ultimately, you want to change things up and get rid of Doug Peterson. Bringing in Deuce Staley is like you're getting someone that's kind of the same as Doug Peterson, just not as good. It doesn't make sense. I think I would keep Deuce Staley around. And much like Jeff Stoutland, they're the top 2 positional coaches from our existing staff. I would interview them for a coordinator job, but not head coach. We also have Gerard Mayo. I don't know what his official title is in New England. Linebackers coach, kind of working under Belichick on that defense. I think there's a couple people that help run the defense, but ultimately it's Bill Belichick's defense. Positives for Mayo, he said he's young and he's hyped up as the next Bill Belichick disciple, where, let's be honest, they're not really hitting at a astronomical rate across the NFL. It feels like for every solid Bill Belichick coaching tree, you get 3 that are not good at all. You know, for every Robert Flores, you get a Bill O'Brien and a Matt Patricia. You know, it's one of those things where he's not even the DC. Like, this is a guy that maybe Philadelphia's bringing in to say, hey, we'll bring you in for a head coaching job. And then they leave the interview saying, well, are you interested in the DC spot? Like, I feel like that's the only logical reason for bringing him in, is like to kind of swoop the rug out from under him and be like, we just want you to come in and interview for our DC job. And, yeah, why not? Why not defensive coordinator job versus giving him the head coaching gig outright? You know, I would take that. Gerard Mayo, Eagles DC, bring over some of that Patriots defense. Sounds good, but not head coach. Lincoln Riley was another name, and he politely declined. He's happy at Oklahoma. To think if that went a little bit further, Lincoln Riley, you know, again, he's just churned out Heisman Trophy winning quarterback after Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. I just think it's too soon for Philadelphia to go the college coach to head coach route. I think if I'm looking at college, I'm looking at OCs and DCs. I think Clemson's offensive coordinator could be interesting, especially because we saw when he wasn't on the field, when he was sick with COVID, Clemson offense did not look good. So I'm like, okay, well, you can usually, if that OC's not immediately lining up another head coaching gig, you might be able to poach that. So I'd be looking at college in terms of poaching OCs and DCs. But Lincoln Riley, you know, we also have Ryan Day, Ohio State's head coach. He has a little bit of history here in Philadelphia, was the QB coach under Chip Kelly. He's another name that has been linked with Philadelphia. I think that Jeffrey Lurie, the Eagles owner, was burned with Chip Kelly, and it's going to be a very long time until Philadelphia dips back in to that college pool. So, yeah, I kind of write both those guys off. I'm not going to give them even a whole lot of thought because I just don't think we can get over the Chip Kelly stink. Todd Bowles. What? We interviewed Todd Bowles. I mean, Todd Bowles is a good, proven defensive coordinator. I mean, when he got fired from the New York Jets as their head coach, I was saying, hey, if he's willing and can run a 4-3 defense, I'd rather Todd Bowles than Jim Schwartz. I mean, he spent some time here in Philadelphia as an interim DC. I think that was the year we fired Sean McDermott, which, God, that sucked. But, I mean, you just look at Todd Bowles and think back to the last time he was a head coach in the Jets. There was a kind of good period where I was like, man, he is performing. He's getting this Jets team to overperform. But for the most part, you just think of a guy that's like kind of looked like a pushover head coach. Didn't look like there was anything impressive about him as a head coach. So this, again, makes no sense. And it also makes no sense from the standpoint that if he comes in, he's going to run his defense, and he's a 3-4 defense. We do not have the personnel. We do not have the salary cap to transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense. Again, this seems like they brought him in to kind of pick the mind and brain of a good DC to kind of get an idea on what direction we should go with the defense and replacing Jim Schwartz versus giving Todd Bowles an honest shot at getting the head coaching job, because that just doesn't make any sense. So we got 3 left, and these 3 are the 3 that like got me interested. And we'll start with Arthur Smith first, because it looks like he's pretty close to going to Atlanta, according to all reports. I think he still has an interview with Philly, but it seems like the Falcons are ready to give him the job. But Arthur Smith, obviously what he did with Ryan Tannehill, a lot of parallels to salvaging Ryan Tannehill, former first-round quarterback that kind of busted out of the league with the Miami Dolphins. He got Ryan Tannehill playing consistently like a top 10 quarterback, and you would think and hope that he could do the same with Carson Wentz. Generally, the Titans offense has been really good since he has called game plays, the way they run the ball, the way that we want Philly to run the ball more with Miles Sanders. There is a lot of good in Arthur Smith as a potential hire. I think the downside is that the Titans offense was a teeny bit inconsistent this year. It felt like you didn't know on any given week, but that was pretty much the whole Titans team. But it didn't really feel like on any given week you knew what Titans offense was. It going to be the offense that just had to use Derrick Henry because they could not get the passing game going? Or was it the offense that like, wow, this is a juggernaut. Look at the way he's developed Corey Davis, and look at the way that A.J. Brown's an absolute beast, and Derrick Henry and Jonnu Smith and everything in between. The inconsistencies this year kind of dampered my hype on Arthur Smith just a little bit. And we also have no Derrick Henry in Philadelphia. It feels like Arthur Smith, when it wasn't working out with Ryan Tannehill, he was like, we're just going to run the ball 30 times with Derrick Henry. There's no other Derrick Henry in the NFL. I don't think Miles Sanders, a man that has struggled with injuries here in Philadelphia, on a flip of a switch when things aren't going well, I don't think Miles Sanders can be a guy that handles 30 touches in a game. And I'm not saying that that's a deal breaker, but there's a negative there. I think Miles Sanders is just not a Derrick Henry volume type running back. So, you know, the fact that Arthur Smith has always had that break glass in case of emergency with Derrick Henry, you kind of want him to go to a team that has that power volume running back, and we just don't have that in Philadelphia unless somehow they think Miles Sanders can be that guy. And I'm not saying that he can't. Miles Sanders is probably the best young skill position player on the Philadelphia Eagles. But my point being is that Miles Sanders has not got a lot of carries, and I think a bit of that is that he gets banged up. Miles Sanders has yet to play a full 16 games healthy, and I think if you have that approach of like, we are going to feed Miles Sanders, we are going to make him a bell cow, injuries could be creeping up their ugly head, potentially. So for Arthur Smith, absolutely, Philadelphia ended up hiring as a head coach. I'd be happy with it, but he's not my number one candidate. Second to last guy we're going to talk about, Robert Sala, the defensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, generally, and especially with the way that Jeffrey Lure's kind of talked about this head coaching search, I'd be shocked if Philadelphia goes with a defensive guy. But if we go defense, Sala's the guy. Not only because, A, he looks like a hell of a head coach. From the outside looking in, anytime I see the Niners play, this guy looks like a badass. Looks like a kind of guy that I'd want to be the coach of my team. Seems like his players consistently play very well for him. That 49ers defense, even when they get ravaged with injuries, still showed up to play every single game. I like it. He gives me like a little bit like Mike Vrabel vibes. But the biggest positive to Robert Sala is I think with that hire, you're going to get the best coordinators. I think he's going to pillage the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff. You're going to get Mike LaFleur, who's the brother of the Packers coach. He's like the passing game coordinator. So you're getting a little bit of that Packers offense. You're going to get a little bit of that Kyle Shanahan offense. He will most likely be the OC. And the DC, I mean, if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I'd be like, hey, you give me a job as a DC back in Philly, I'm there. So the fact that we could have one of the hottest potential OCs would be a lock to follow Robert Sala. And we get a DC that I think a lot of fans, myself included, would like to see back in Philadelphia. While Sala, defensive-minded head coach, could be a little less than ideal in today's modern NFL, I think the coaching staff you get with him is a big, big-time plus. And, you know, the negative is like, his defensive coach, would he help Wentz? Probably not, but I think his coaching staff would. So right now, out of all the guys, Robert Sala is number 2 on who I'd want Philly to hire as their head coach. But number 1 should come to no surprise if you've seen my videos before. Joe Brady, the Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator, former passing game coordinator, Joe Burrow quarterback whisperer at LSU. We saw the drop-off at LSU when Joe Brady left in terms of offense. And we saw an offense last season in Carolina that punched above its weight class. You had game manager in Teddy Bridgewater. He actually was able to, at times, look like he was running a prolific offense, finding Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore and all those guys. And the fact that they didn't have Christian McCaffrey for like 90% of the season and still finish like a middle tier offense for a brand new OC, that's impressive. That is really, really, really impressive. So I do think the negative that I'm going to say for Joe Brady is I think it's too early. I think he's too green. It'd be ideal, say, if Carolina drafted a quarterback. If they got a Trey Lance, if they got a Justin Fields, if they got a Zach Wilson, something like that in the draft, and then we could kind of see Joe Brady with a young rookie quarterback mold him so he's not just stuck there with lame Teddy Bridgewater. But I think Philly's entering a period that Joe Brady makes sense. Because if you get, it's not just blind, I'm throwing out names there. Everybody wants Joe Brady. The fact that he's only on 1 year and he's interviewed for pretty much every job so far, everybody thinks there's something there with Joe Brady, but he might not be ready. The thing is, you listen to Jeffrey Lurie in that, if you saw that exit press conference where he was talking about firing Doug Peterson, doesn't seem like he expects the Philadelphia Eagles to really be true contenders over the next year or so. He was thinking long-term, 3, 4, 5 years. So that pretty much gives you free reign that, like, all right, we're burning 2 years. Whatever coach we bring in, we're probably, from a salary cap standpoint, from a talent standpoint, we're not going to be super competitive. So why not use that as the growing pains with someone like Joe Brady in case he becomes the next Sean McVay, the next Kyle Shanahan, the guy that he's being built up to be right now. So I feel like Philadelphia's in the best spot. Because you look at someone like Arthur Smith, you look at someone like Robert Sala. Those are head coaches that you hire because you have the roster. You just need the coach. You just need the leadership. You just need the change in culture. Philadelphia, we don't have a whole lot going for us. Right now, it's like we got to get someone that's offensive-minded, that can potentially innovate and fix Carson Wentz. Like, those are our big three. We don't need to be hiring the guy that's like, who's going to make us a playoff team in 2021. We don't have to think about that. So I feel like Joe Brady is the guy. It's a risk. It's a big risk. But we're at a spot with the Eagles organization that you can take that. You can afford to take that risk because it's not like there's a whole lot else to work with. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Philadelphia sucks the next 2 years, we're going to suck with Robert Sala. We're going to suck with Arthur Smith. But if we suck with Joe Brady, those are going to be 2 very, very vital developmental years for Joe Brady into becoming the head coach that, if he gets hired, Philadelphia thinks he could be. Like, that's his ceiling. So that's what I think of the name so far. I mean, guys are going to be coming in left, right, and center. If we get another big chunk of coaches, I'm sure I'll follow up with a video. But Joe Brady's my guy. I like Sala. I like Arthur Smith. Other than that, though, like Deuce Staley, get out of here. Mayo, Todd Bowles, Kellen Moore. Not my team. Not my hire. Hashtag not my head coach. So let me know what you guys think so far about the Eagles head coaching hires, interviews, everything like that in between. Who do you think should be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles? Who should be their OC? Who should be their DC? Let me know in the comment section below. We'll be back tomorrow, probably. This will probably just be today's upload. We'll be back tomorrow with Eagles franchise. And then on Saturday, college football rebuild, another one. And then on Sunday, part 9 of the Flashback Raiders rebuild. Almost done that. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. As always, first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Until next time, it's C4 saying peace out and have a good one.